I request that we stand for a prayer. God our Father, we thank you for the vision that forged our Constitution, a covenant of hope, justice, and unity. Grant us, Lord, the courage to rise above complacency, to see afresh the climb before us. Where we have fallen short, forgive us. Where we have grown weary, renew our strength. For leaders, inspire integrity. For citizens, stir responsibility. For this nation, ignite passion to fulfill promise of prosperity. May we always climb higher together, bound by trust in each other and in you. We pray in your holy name. Amen.
We continue praying. Bismillah, salatu wassalam ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi. O Allah, all praise belongs to you, Lord of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful. O Allah, on this Katiba Day, we thank you for blessing us with a nation, a people, and laws that bring us together in harmony and order. O Allah, just as you reveal divine laws to guide humanity through your prophets, we ask you to bless and guide our Constitution, that it may always serve justice, equity, and the welfare of all citizens. O Allah, we pray for our leaders, our President, the President of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto, together with his deputy and the entire leaders of this nation. Grant them honesty, wisdom, and compassion. O Allah, make us citizens who uphold justice, obey rightful authority, and contribute to the well-being of our beloved nation. Protect our land, our resources, and our generations to come. Bless our country with peace, stability, and prosperity. In the names of Allah and His beautiful attributes, we hope and pray. Amen.
With your permission, Your Excellency, may we take our seats. Your Excellency, sir, at this point, allow me to now call on the Chief of Staff and Head of Public Service, Mr. Felix Koskei, who will now proceed with the program. Tumkaribishe kwa makofi tafadhali. Welcome, sir.
Your Excellency, the President, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Chief Justice, all judges of the Supreme Court, the Honorable Attorney General, all Cabinet Secretaries, the Chief of Defense Forces, all county governors, the President of the Court of Appeal and judges present, chairpersons of constitutional commissions, and heads of independent offices, all principal secretaries present, the top command of our military and other state security organs, the diplomatic corps, our Masuja present, honored guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. This commemoration ceremony is convened in accordance with the presidential proclamation issued on the 25th of August 2025, which formally designated the 27th of August 2025 and every 27th of August thereafter as Katiba Day. Although Katiba Day has been declared a working day, Your Excellency directed all government institutions across the three arms of government and the two levels of governance, including schools and other learning institutions, to organize, participate in, and promote civic duties or activities that are geared towards enhancing constitutional awareness and civic responsibility across the nation. In honor of this proclamation, we are gathered here today for the inaugural Katiba Day Summit. This summit brings together distinguished participants, including the Masuja wa Katiba, the heroes of our constitutional journey, members of the National Executive, leaders of Parliament and the judiciary, county governors, holders of independent offices, chairpersons and commissioners of constitutional commissions, members of the diplomatic corps, chairpersons and chief executive officers of state corporations, representatives of the business community, the Interfaith Council, civil society organizations, and representatives from professional bodies across the country. I confirm that indeed we have the representation of all these stakeholders present, and therefore we are duly constituted to progress this commemoration. Accordingly, it is now my distinct honor and high privilege to officially call this national ceremony to order as we mark the first Katiba Day. On this very date, in the year 2010, the people of Kenya turned a defining chapter in the history of our nation. We gather here not only to commemorate the moment, but to reflect upon it and to rededicate ourselves to the covenant that redefined our collective destiny as a nation, a covenant that binds past, present, and future generations in pursuit of inclusive development, justice, equity, and shared prosperity for all. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, the golden thread that binds these generations together is the enduring state and the indomitable spirit of our people, as well as in our national symbols. Article 9 of our Constitution defines the national symbols of the Republic of Kenya as the national flag, the national anthem, the coat of arms, and the public seal. These symbols are not just images, sounds, or instruments. They are sacred emblems of our unity, our independence, and our sovereignty. They represent the authority of the state and the shared identity of the Kenyan people, both within our borders and around the world. As a solemn reminder of the responsibility carried by those entrusted with public service in all the arms of government, and to formally begin this historic celebration, we shall now witness the ceremonial presentation of the following instruments: the original copy number 1 of the Constitution of Kenya, which was assented to by the third President of the Republic, His Excellency President Mwai Kibaki, on this date 15 years ago. The national flag first hoisted at independence in the year 1963. The original musical score of the national anthem as approved by the cabinet and played at independence, the coat of arms, and finally, the public seal. The copy of the Constitution will be presented by the Honorable Attorney General, whose office is constitutionally mandated to promote and uphold the rule of law and to protect the public interest. The remaining national instruments will be presented with honor by the Kenya Defense Forces, the dedicated protectors of our sovereignty. Your Excellency, sir, distinguished guests, at this moment, I am now respectfully requesting that we all arise for the conveyance and installation of copy number 1 of the Constitution of Kenya, along with the national symbols of the Republic. Over to KDF.
Basi Mheshimiwa Rais, hivi sasa tutaweza kupokea nakala rasmi ya katiba yetu ya Kenya, ikiweza kuletwa na mwanasheria mkuu Mheshimiwa Gachagua'S Oduor. Katiba, Mheshimiwa Rais, ni sheria kuu ya nchi ambayo sheria zote kutoka ndani ya katiba hii. Tarehe kama ya leo Agosti mwaka wa 2010 tuliweza kuasisi katiba hii. Tumshangilie kwa makofi mazuri mwanasheria mkuu anapoweza kuweka katiba yoko ndani ya ukumbi huu, na hali kadhalika wananchi wanaofuatilia mbashara kuweza kutazama nakala ya kwanza kabisa ya katiba ya Kenya. Mheshimiwa Rais, katiba hii huzungumzia usawa, amani pamoja na utawala bora. Jinsi tulivyosikia watoto wetu wakiweza kuzungumzia kwa mara ya kwanza kwa utangulizi. Mheshimiwa Rais, itakayofuata ni bendera rasmi ya taifa la Kenya. Bendera hii kwa umaridadi, Mheshimiwa Rais, ikiwa imebebwa na wanajeshi wetu, jeshi la nchi kavu, jeshi la wanaanga na jeshi la wanamaji, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Rais, katiba imetuika jukumu la ulinzi wa taifa katika majeshi ya ulinzi ya Kenya, wakija kwa mwendo wa kinyonga. Mheshimiwa Rais, utatazama wakiweza kufungua bendera hii. Rangi ya kwanza kabisa ni rangi nyeusi ambayo inazungumzia sisi kama Wakenya. Kisha tuna rangi nyeupe ambayo huzungumzia amani na umoja wetu. Rangi nyekundu ambayo inazungumzia damu tuliyoweza kuipoteza wakati wa kupigania uhuru, na rangi ya kijani kibichi, Mheshimiwa Rais, kuzungumzia masuala ya kilimo na mali ama rasilimali ambazo tuko nazo kama taifa. Tuwashangilie kwa makofi mazuri Mheshimiwa Rais, hii ikiwa ni nguzo muhimu katika vyombo vya mamlaka. Basi wataweza kukunja bendera hii rasmi ya taifa la Kenya kabla kuweza kuondoka mahali hapa. Kila kitu Mheshimiwa Rais katika majeshi ya ulinzi hufanywa kwa mpango na kwa muda mfupi. Wakiweza kuondoka kwa mwendo wa kinyonga, kabla ya kuondoka Mheshimiwa Rais, wataweka bendera hii kwenye stand kisha waweze kuondoka. Wakiondoka kwa mwendo wa kinyonga, Mheshimiwa Rais, kando na katiba, Mheshimiwa Rais, vyombo vilivyosailia vya mamlaka vitaweza kuletwa mahali hapa na majeshi ya ulinzi kuashiria kwamba Kenya inaongozwa na katiba. Basi Mheshimiwa Rais, itakayofuata hivi sasa ni coat of arms, ambapo tutaweza kuletewa na mwenzetu toka jeshi la wanaanga. Mheshimiwa Rais, samahani, ni lyrics za wimbo wa taifa, maneno ya wimbo wa taifa, ambapo Mheshimiwa Rais, tulivyoweza kukariri muda wa mfupi ulioweza kukamilika wimbo wetu wa taifa, tunaanza na kumwomba Mwenyezi Mungu aweze kuilinda nchi yetu, undugu na ushirikiano, uzalendo na hali kadhalika, Mheshimiwa Rais, kuzidi kulinda taifa letu. Tumshangilie kwa makofi mazuri anapoweka nakala hii ya wimbo wa taifa ama maneno ya wimbo wa taifa kwenye stendi. Mheshimiwa Rais, takayofuata ni ngao ya taifa ama ukipenda coat of arms, ambapo wenzetu kutoka majeshi ya ulinzi ya Kenya wataweza kuleta mali hapa. Mheshimiwa Rais, kwenye ngao hiyo ya taifa utaweza kuona kwamba kuna simba wawili. Simba hawa inaashiria ulinzi ambao mumeweza kututwika kama wananchi wa Kenya kwa ulinzi wa taifa letu la Kenya. Mishale utakayoshuhudia kando ni umoja wetu na uhuru na kuwa tayari kulinda taifa. Kisha Mheshimiwa Rais, utaweza kuona bendera za taifa letu jinsi nilivyoweza kukariri, rangi hizo zikisimamia kila moja. Basi jogoo unayoiona ikiwa na shoka inaashiria mwanzo mpya, na kwenye chini yake utaona neno harambee linalosema sote tuvute pamoja. Mheshimiwa Rais, tukivuta pamoja tutakuwa washindi. Tushangilie kwa makofi tafadhali. Mheshimiwa Rais, kutufungia wanapoondoka wenzetu wataweza kutuletea na kuweza kuzindua rasmi muhuri wa taifa la Kenya. Muhuri huu Mheshimiwa Rais, ambao huwapa walio uongozini mamlaka ya kuweza kutekeleza wajibu wao kwa niaba ya Wakenya. Unavyotazama Mheshimiwa Rais, wakiweza kuja kwa umaridadi kabisa kuweza kuzindua muhuri huu rasmi wa taifa la Kenya. Na hii leo Mheshimiwa Rais, wananchi pia watapata fursa ya kuweza kushuhudia muhuri huu kwa umaridadi, wakiweza kuletwa na Regimental Sergeant Major ili wakaweze kutekeleza wajibu huu. Tuwape makofi mazuri Mheshimiwa Rais, wakiweza kuzindua rasmi muhuri wa taifa la Kenya. Wanaondoka kwa umaridadi, na Mheshimiwa Rais, wanapoondoka ningeomba kwa heshima tuweze kuketi ili niweze kumwalika Bwana Mike Gitonga pamoja na ndugu Boni Msambi waweze kuendelea na ratiba itakayofuata.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Ladies and gentlemen, with the instruments of state now duly installed, we can now proceed formally. Your Excellency, the contours of the Constitution of Kenya are marked in 18 chapters. Each chapter represents a pillar in the structure of our democratic state. Before the Sir, ladies and gentlemen, we will now showcase a brief replay of the promulgation day embedded in the echoes of this preamble. Ladies and gentlemen, the replay.
ethnic, cultural, and religious diversity and determined to live in peace and unity as one indivisible sovereign nation, respectful of the environment, which is our heritage, and determined to sustain it for the benefit of future generations, committed to nurturing and protecting the well-being of the individual, the family, communities, and the nation, recognizing the aspirations of all Kenyans for a government based on the essential values of human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law, exercising our sovereign and inalienable right to determine the form of governance for our country, and having participated fully in the making of this Constitution, adopt, enact, and give this Constitution to ourselves and to our future generations. God bless you.
Shall be the new Constitution of Kenya from the 27th August, the year 2010.
Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, among the most transformative features introduced by the Constitution of Kenya are two foundational pillars: the establishment of a devolved system of governance and the creation of constitutional commissions and independent offices as provided for under Chapter 15. As part of the framework of the organization of government, the mandate to coordinate the implementation of the recommendation of these commissions and independent offices, as well as to oversee the working relationship between the two levels of government, is vested in the office of the Deputy President. It is in the recognition of this constitutional mandate that today's summit is jointly convened by His Excellency the Deputy President and the Honorable Attorney General. It is now my distinct honor and high privilege to invite His Excellency the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya to deliver his introductory remarks and formally set in motion the program of this historic First Katiba Day. Welcome, Your Excellency.
Things the shortest time possible. The first is that we have a wonderful constitution which is a product of the labor, efforts and the sweat of many Kenyans for many years. This is the constitution that replaced the constitution we adopted in 1963. The main difference between the two being that the 1963 Constitution was negotiated, adopted on behalf of the people by leaders of the dominant parties at that time. And by dominant parties, I mean dominant political parties of that time. For the 2010 Constitution, first, the process took much longer. It was much more difficult, but more importantly, it involved a lot of participation of the people of Kenya, the people themselves of Kenya, in their representation. Many of that representation directly elected by the people to come to Bomas of Kenya to make a constitution. Over and above those who had been elected through democracy. That marks one of the biggest and most fundamental difference between the 2010 and the 1963 Constitution. While the 1963 Constitution was driven by the voices of dominant political parties, The 2010 Constitution was driven by the voices of masses of people from the grassroots, blending it with the voices of the leaders who were holding office at that time. Mr. President, we are also lucky. Our Constitution sets a very clear hierarchy of the priorities of the nation. And that is the preamble we've just listened to, and that has just been replayed here. That preamble summarizes the national priorities. Those priorities are structured in terms of who calls the shots in our country. If you look at that preamble, the people assert themselves as the supreme human, the highest supreme human organ of constitution making. Unlike the 1963 Constitution, which had concepts like the supremacy of parliament and other concepts which have been overtaken by events today. Interestingly, Your Excellency, I have noted as a student of constitutional law that the same preamble, the people asserting themselves as the highest constitution-making organ, the people, they do recognize two things: that this nation exists subject to a higher authority, the Almighty God of all creation. That part is normally left a lot in constitution making, especially in analyzing the structure of our constitution. But the preamble also has told us downstream, the people who are the highest human constitution making organ have delegated most of what they would be doing themselves to organs of states and to the levels of government that are represented here. Both the organs of state, the three arms of government, and the two levels of government. Your Excellency, that preamble also helps us to understand our national values. We respect the individual, the family, the community, and the nation. That hierarchy again of the units that constitute our nation are spelled out there. The other feature, Your Excellency, again summarized in the preamble and elaborated in the many chapters, the 18 chapters that follow, is the feature that talks about intergenerational responsibilities and equity between generations. And the Constitution asserts that no generation is superior than the other. There are obligations of the present generation to future generations in perpetuity. Another distinguishing factor or ingredient of that Constitution is the national values, the rule of law, democracy, social justice, and even environmental justice. Again, it is spelled out in the preamble. The other feature is the checks and balances system. If you look at the chapters on the three arms of government, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, and how they relate with each other, the national government and the county governments, the independent commissions and offices, again, that relationship has been defined there. Two other distinguishing characteristics before I end my remarks, Your Excellency. And the one is that the Constitution creates a very, very paradigmatic shift on the rights and freedoms of the individual in a very dramatic way. And even as we pause to look at the challenges we are facing as a country today to implement this wonderful Constitution, one of the areas that has brought a lot of heavy lifting as a nation is that issue around the freedoms of the individual and how individual citizens relate with one another. Finally, Your Excellency, this Constitution, again in the preamble, summarizes our sovereignty as a nation in two aspects. One is it has said that we must protect the nation and its people so that we can be free from fear and free from want. Those are two important aspects of this constitution. The freedom from fear is what protects individuals and citizens so that they are not harmed by one another, they are not harmed by organs of state, they don't harm each other. And then you have the military for the defense and also the institutions of internal security for the internal moderation of law and order to prevent us from hurting each other so that we can be free from fear. But finally, this constitution is also about our sovereignty so that we can be a country free from want. Again, this is a very, very drastic introduction, not only for Kenya's constitutional framework, but for constitutional theory. Country free from want. Again, this is a very, very drastic democracy and the rule of law and civil liberties, without saying, as much as these are important, there are other freedoms that a human being must be free from to actualize their full potential on earth. They must be free from hunger. They must be free from sickness. They must live in dignity. And that is the chapter on the Bill of Rights, on the socio-economic rights, which your administration, Your Excellency, has taken head on to deal with the difficult issues of public health and ensuring every citizen has the highest standard of health, making sure that we, as many Kenyans as possible, live in dignified dwellings which have sanitation, which can pass for dwellings that are of dignity, and so on and so on. The food security programs, the agriculture programs are speaking to our socio-economic rights enshrined in Article 43 that calls on the state to make sure you create access to the services that lead to asserting the sovereignty of the people of Kenya so that they can be free, not only from fear, but they can be free from want. Your Excellency, as I call the panelists who are much more qualified than I am on this subject, I want to say many of the people who fought, labored and sweated so that we can have this beautiful Grunum law, this Grunum, this constitution, are not with us today. They have rested from the sweat and the labors of this world, and they are no longer with us. But their spirit walks with us. A few are still with us. And looking around at this hall, I see many, many of those who are part of this very difficult but important project for recreating a new Kenya. I have seen former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and many others. And I think I am in good space, and I look forward this afternoon to refreshing my memory, my mind, and my value system as a Kenyan on what I need to do to make sure that I live to the spirit and I live up to the spirit and expectations of the Constitution in the office that I occupy. With those many remarks, Your Excellency, I've been requested to call the panelists. I don't know where they'll speak from. You give me that program, Michael. Just a minute. Where will they sit? They will come here. So, Your Excellency, sorry if I've spoken for long. You know, in your presence, my speech should be short. But I speak for long when I'm doing my own events. I'm sorry about that. I will call the following panelists who represent various shades of representation. The first one is our sister, my colleague in the profession, the Honorable Lady Justice Jokin Dung, Judge of the Supreme Court, to represent the judiciary. Welcome, Justice Njoki, a very, very prominent player in the process, the 20 years of the constitution-making process. Welcome, Judge. I'll also call another colleague of mine and my senior in the profession and also in the academy, Professor Makau Mutua, Senior Presidential Advisor on Constitutional Affairs and Human Rights. Again, he needs no introduction. I will also call my brother again and my colleague, the Honorable Dr. Otiende Amolo, Senior Counsel, Member of Parliament for Rarieda, representing Parliament. I'll also call FCPA Nancy Gadungu, Auditor General, who will represent constitutional commissions and independent offices. I will call to the dais Governor Fatuma Achani, Governor of Kwale County, representing the Council of Governors. And the discussant is going to be again my colleague and my brother, the Honorable Abdikadir Mohammed, Senior Counsel. Please make your way to the stage. Asanteni sana.
Thank you, Your Excellency. I think we'll go straight into it. Your Excellency, the President, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our hope is that we're going to have a fairly open, transparent discussion on the achievements and the challenges our Katiba has faced 15 years down the line. For a long time, we have referred to the Katiba as the new constitution. I think the population mean in the country is about 19 years. The Katiba is 15 years old. I think it's fair to say that a majority of Kenyans have lived with this constitution. So they are born after the promulgation of the Katiba. And the Katiba over the last few days has had quite a bit of discussion, Your Excellency, because of your gesture to honor this day going forward. And I wish to thank you sincerely, Your Excellency, for that gesture, because constitutions are ideas, and ideas require ceremony, ideas require norms to take hold. And for our constitutionalism to take hold, we need this celebration. So I want to thank you most sincerely. You get criticized a lot for a lot of things. We must celebrate when you do great things, and this is indeed a great and wonderful thing. The gentlemen and ladies up here are experts, as His Excellency the Deputy President said, on the matters they're going to talk about. They represent the organizations we have talked about. As we discuss, I'm going to be throwing one or two questions at them. If you have seen the discussion over the last 1 week, many Kenyans have strong views about our Katiba. Quite a number of them will tell you what they think are the hits as far as the Constitution is concerned, and what they think are the challenges, including on the organizations and institutions. If you ask the average Kenyan, they will have a positive view about devolution, for example. And devolution is represented by High Excellency, the Governor here. and they'll have a positive view, generally speaking, about the judiciary. They might not have a similar view about our parliament. And we said we're going to be transparent, so we're going to be asking the Honorable Senior Counsel about the challenges that Parliament might have faced in implementing the Constitution. So I'm going to start at the very fine. The Supreme Court judge was a member of the Committee of Experts, Your Excellency, and the Deputy President said there were many who took part in the process of constitution making. I'm happy to note that you, Your Excellency, were a member of the Parliamentary Select Committee, and so was your Prime Cabinet Secretary. And of course, our former Prime Minister was a key player in the process. But on this side, we have the Senior Counsel on that end, who was a member of the Committee of Experts, and Her Ladyship, the Supreme Court Judge, who was also a member of the Committee of Experts. Those are the two organs that really process the Katiba in terms of the review process. So I'm going to ask Justice Njoki, who was a former parliamentarian, who is a lawyer of much repute, and who, during her time, championed quite a bit of the Bill of Rights. What she thinks really the Constitution has delivered for the judiciary, to the point where Kenyans think the judiciary ought to be celebrated. Justice Njoki.
Thank you very much, Chair. I think that the thinking during the drafting of the Constitution, that the judiciary was a subject matter, that there was trust deficit around the judiciary because most of the judges, or all the judges, were direct presidential appointees. The judiciary had no budget, and therefore Kenyans were very untrusting or distrusting. I think moving from the promulgation of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, we've seen many changes. We now see far much more decisional independence of judges, where judges fear not that night phone call from State House, as was in the dark days, where now we have seen more operational independence, as gradually the judiciary is getting a little bit more funding, that is increasing staff. We are now increasing judges. The judiciary is now operational in 47 counties, and therefore access to justice, which was partially a vision of the Constitution, is now, we are on the journey there. There's also the issue of Kenyans who now come to the judiciary. And people say that Kenyans are very litigious. They come to court on every matter. I think that it should be celebrated. There was a time before the Constitution of 2010 when not all Kenyans could come to court. There was the issue, what we call formally in the legal language, of locus standi. But now, any Kenyan can come on any issue, and they are doing so. And therefore, I do believe that the Constitution is working, and the judiciary too.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for her, but I'll still be with her. And we said we're going to be transparent. So indeed, there are also those who see some challenges when it comes to the judiciary in terms of overreach of the judiciary. For example, the gentleman next to me, representing the executive, probably will say they are having it difficult to run the executive because of overreach by the judiciary. There are those who would say that the judiciary has independence, it cannot be touched by any outside party, yet the judiciary shields its officers from accountability. What would be the remarks from the Lady Justice? And I understand you are a sitting judge and your remarks will be circumscribed.
I think that the Constitution is very clear in Article 10, where all the national values bind all state officers, those who work in the executive, those who are in parliament and in the judiciary, that we must follow the rule of law, that there must be transparency, accountability, we must allow participation of the people. Therefore, it is the duty of the judiciary to be the guardian of the Constitution and to defend where any arm of government does not follow the Constitution. That cannot be judicial overreach. That can only be fidelity to the Constitution. There are many challenges, of course. We've seen that as we listen to some of the cases. There are a number of tough wars. You know, some of the cases that come before us, some are between Senate and the National Assembly, others are between the national government and the county government. But those are disputes that we do resolve. However, there is a concern that sometimes political questions are brought to the courts, and courts cannot answer political questions. Courts may only answer judicial questions and points of law, and perhaps therefore the political class ought to be encouraged to resolve political disputes outside of the corridors of the courts.
Thank you very much. Let me go on the other side. Senior Counsel, Parliament is the first institution of the Constitution. Much is given by the Constitution to Parliament. It has the power of the purse, it has the power to vet the President's senior appointments, it has the power to make laws, it has the power to summon any and all government organs. Yet, I think I speak for many if I say many Kenyans are not happy with our National Assembly and our Senate, starting from the President and the former Prime Minister all the way to the villages. What is it about Parliament that has not endeared itself to the people as far as the powers given to Parliament by the new Constitution and the powers given by the people to Parliament?
Thank you, Session Chair. First, allow me to thank the President for the proclamation. Your Excellency, you will be surprised when you are watching the ceremony for promulgation. I'm sure you did not see the committee of experts anywhere. We were 9 of us, 3 international experts, 6 local experts. Our chair has since passed on, the Honorable Nzamba Kitonga AC, and I'm praying that he might be recognized posthumously. But as soon as we released the final text of the Constitution to the government printer, nobody remembered us. We didn't even have a seat. So it is today that now I have a seat. So I thank you 15 years later. Njokindungu will tell you, Professor Sempeba brought his wife all the way from Uganda and could not sit. Secondly, fortunately for us, both yourself and the Prime Minister were in Parliament, and you are there much longer than me. So if there are things to be known, I'm sure you know them. But more fortunately, I'm here with my Speaker, Session Chair. I hold no leadership position in Parliament. So if anybody is to be crucified, please look for the Honorable Wetangula. Me, I'll give my perspective. I will give my perspective from having participated in the Committee of Experts to my experience now in 8 years. First, I am the first to concede, and I've said this and I've conceded it in public, that I don't think we are doing well in Parliament, especially the 13th Parliament. I am not here to apologize. But just like all other branches, there are successes, but there's work to be done. At least in our favor, 15 years down the line, we still have a bicameral Parliament. 15 years down the line, we've held elections regularly. We are still able to vet. We are even able to impeach, as we recently did. So at least it is there. But there are 2 problems that I see. One is historical and one is institutional. The historical one, Chair, you will remember, is the problem between the National Assembly and the Senate. In the Committee of Experts, we had designated the Senate as the upper house. You who were in Parliament then decided that we did not need a Senate and removed it. When it came to us, given the historical experience that we had in this country, we decided we needed a Senate at least to protect devolution. So unfortunately, all the powers we had given to the Senate were removed, and we left the Senate with a threadbare role of protecting devolution and taking care of the interest of the devolved units. Very little. And ultimately, therefore, with the subsequent interpretation by the Supreme Court and all, there remains sibling rivalry between the Senate and the National Assembly, and sometimes it becomes a problem for Parliament as Parliament. That is historical. The institutional one is one of our creation, and it was created before I joined Parliament. we changed, the Committee of Experts had proposed a parliamentary system. Members of Parliament, in their wisdom in Naivasha, changed it to a presidential system. And so we had to make things to adopt to that presidential system. Whatever we made to adopt to the presidential system does not seem to have been reflected in the structure of politics. So that what we have now is you have members of Parliament from the party that is in the executive, and because they are the majority in Parliament, they call themselves government. You have members of Parliament from the minority who call themselves opposition. Members of Parliament are yet to learn that there is no government or opposition inside of Parliament. There is only the majority and the minority, and collectively we are supposed to oversight the executive. That we have not learned, and it's something we struggle with, and that's part of the problem. I think moving forward, there are things to be done. One, if Parliament must seriously work on the trust deficit that we currently have. But secondly, and Njoki talked about judicial overreach, we had a colloquium with the judiciary recently, and I made the proposition that while the judiciary is free to handle Parliament in any way, especially when it's doing a quasi-judicial duty, please let Parliament handle legislation, because there are inbuilt mechanisms. You can find us wrong later. But lastly, from the executive perspective, it must also reduce its chokehold on Parliament. Kidogo tu, then we'll be able to move forward. Thank you very much.
But may I remind the senior counsel that power is never given. The Constitution has clothed Parliament with the powers to oversight the executive. It's just that Parliament has decided to go to sleep. So probably is to ask Parliament to wake up and don't give the President everything he asks for. So let me ask Professor, who represents the President's office. The executive is the largest organ of government. The executive is the implementer and usually is the culprit when it comes to rights. What is it about our Katiba that has limited the powers of our executive to make sure that the executive is accountable to the people?
Thank you very much, Abdul Kadir. I just want to say, first of all, you will sympathize with me because you have asked me to answer a question and to speak about the executive in the presence of my boss.
I have told you in the military, when you want to speak freely, you ask your commander to speak freely. So we'll ask the President to give you permission to speak freely.
Luckily, the 2010 Constitution protects me from any adverse conduct from anyone in the Republic. I just want to say that of the three arms of government, the one that has the awesome responsibility for the security, the protection, and the prosperity of the Republic of Kenya is the executive. This is a job like no other. Now, in constitutional theory, as you know, and political practice, the three arms of government are supposed to be co-equal. But I think it is common knowledge to philosophers and scholars that the executive is the first among equals. And you recall, of course, that democracy itself as a phenomenon for the governance of society is a very difficult practice to execute. It was none other than Winston Churchill, who opined that democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others. Meaning that of all the systems of government, democracy is not perfect, but it is better than all the others. But Churchill also said something else. He said that the best argument against democracy is a 5-minute conversation with the average voter. What I'm trying to say is that the performance of democracy is very difficult. If something goes wrong in the country, citizens will not blame the legislature. They will not blame the judiciary. They will look for the president. The president and the executive have a thankless job. If there's a terror attack, he is blamed. If there's a flood, he is blamed. So I just want to say that for this system of government to work in our constitution, we need to understand that the doctrine of separation of powers and of checks and balances works only when there's comity and there is interdependence among the three arms of government. I like to say that this doctrine is like the function of the knee. The knee has the thigh bone, it has the leg bone, but it has the cartilage. The cartilage is that matter that makes it possible for the knee to function. If you remove the cartilage, you're going to have both bones rubbing against each other. So what I'm trying to say is that the judiciary is the cartilage of a democratic polity. It must do its job in our constitution. The legislature obviously must make laws. The executive must implement those laws. And so what our constitution gives us is a system in which the three arms of government, they are independent, I want to say that, but fundamentally, when they practice governance, they do so in a way that is interdependent. And I think there should be no mistake about the concept of interdependence. That concept does not mean that the judiciary, for example, when it is looking at policy, it is looking at the decisions of the government, of the executive. It does not mean that if it exercises its mind on, for example, the principle of the political doctrine, okay, giving the benefit of the doubt to the executive because of its awesome responsibility. It does not mean that the judiciary is ceding its independence. It means that it's understanding how the system works. The system works in a give and take way, and the system works only when there's comity among the three branches of government. I just want to say also, because of recent conversations that have taken place, that the legislature itself, it represents the people. So, in a sense, the legislature must be almost as clean as Caesar's wife. Okay? And I have seen, and I want to say this in front of everyone here, I have seen a reaction by the legislature when it was called out on the question of corruption. I have to say that their reaction really could have been better. Instead of looking inward, which is what our constitution demands, they became defensive and looked outward. The judiciary, similarly. Obviously, the executive as well. But I think fundamentally, there has to be this working committee between the three arms of government.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. A round of applause, please, for a good professor. And I hope the president will not take any actions against him if he has spoken too freely. Let me go to the auditor. Our old constitution had the controller and auditor. Yours is now the auditor. Many Kenyans are happy with the reports you produce, and many Kenyans have a positive view generally about the auditor's office. What is it about the constitution that has helped your office come into being and exercise those powers to the point where many are happy with what you do?
Thank you very much, Moderator, Your Excellency. Again, I join my colleagues here in recognizing the importance of this day. It heralds a new era that moving forward, hopefully, we shall put the Constitution at the front of all decisions and actions that we take as government. To answer the question concerning the Auditor General, we'd have first to demystify and remove the misconception concerning constitutional commissions and independent offices. Most of the time we hear people referring to the CCIOs, as we call them, as competitors to the governance structures already established or as a fourth arm of government. That is far from the truth. Constitution commissions and independent offices are not a fourth arm of government. They are intermediaries between the people and the three arms of government as established. And why do I say this? Allow me to go to Article 249. And this will also answer the question on the role of the Auditor General. If you look at Article 249, and the experts are here, two of them, it is demanded of us as CCIOs that we protect the sovereignty of the people. So the work that we do, the established constitution commissions and independent offices are demanded by the Constitution to protect the sovereignty of the people. And why is that article there? It means the Constitution contemplates that the sovereignty or the sovereign power of the people as guaranteed by the Constitution may not always be safe or may not always be observed when the people delegate such power to the three arms of government who are ideally supposed to be independent of each other, whether at the national or at the sub-national level. And as CCIOs, we are tasked to protect that sovereignty through our various mandates, including the audit of how public finance is being applied in the actions, in the activities, in the policies, in delivery of services, and also in sustainable development, and report on this. But of course, the Constitution also contemplates that there will be action taken on this. We are also required to secure the observance by all state organs, and all state organs includes the Constitution commissions and independent offices on the democratic values and principles. And that means we recognize that as a democracy, the ultimate power rests with the people, and hence the constitutional requirement under the various articles for the participation of the people in the decisions and actions that affect their lives and their livelihoods. And the decisions and actions that affect the people's lives and livelihoods utilize public resources, whether in form of funds or whether in form of our other wealth within the country. So the Constitution did not envisage the breach of this requirement or tokenism or superficial gestures or symbolic action on public participation. And the judiciary has pronounced itself on this. And we can challenge Parliament, and the Speaker is here, that we need a law and we need regulations on public participation. Point of reference. So, with regard to the work that I do as the Office of the Auditor General, we follow the money that Parliament appropriates, because the money is appropriated by Parliament, the money is oversighted by Parliament, and Parliament reports back to the citizens on how the funds that they have appropriated has been utilized for the benefits of those they represent. So the Office of the Auditor General is established as an arm of Parliament or as an independent oversighter that links directly to the people on how their resources have been utilized. So it is not an easy job because when you follow the money and sometimes decisions are made that require or that are informed by leadership, that people require certain services or we require certain development projects or programs, and the people have not been consulted, then I have to come up and say, hey, wait, Article 249 requires that I report on the sovereignty and the public participation of the people. We have seen some improvements in terms of implementation of audit recommendations with the discussions with the head of public service on how issues should be addressed within the various state departments and within the various state-owned enterprises, and of course drill down to the sub-national level. We have seen more interest in what issues are being raised, what risks are there, what internal controls need to be established, so that at the end of the day, there is meaningful development and there is quality and sustainable service delivery. Thank you.
Thank you. And please give her. Unlike the auditor, many other commissions, and I'll not name any so that you have a freedom to speak, are not, don't have the same views as far as the Kenyans are concerned. There are many, each of those Chapter 15 organizations was set up specifically because of a particular challenge that the Constitution realized needed addressed at the constitutional level. Quite a number of those challenges still exist up to this day. Any of the areas would you say then, and there was a lot of hope that the constitutional commissions would really be a major answer to our constitutional problems, to our governance problems. Would you say that many of these commissions, okay, probably you will not say, but let me say that many of those commissions probably have not met that threshold. What is the challenge that faces many of the commissions so that the executive feels they are stepping on the executive's toes, the people have not seen the benefits of those commissions? Are they too many? Did we not design them well? Why do you think the commissions have not performed as well as hoped?
Thank you. We have to go back to what I said earlier, the perception that constitutional commissions and independent offices are competitors with established governance structures, especially within the executive. We have a lot of overlapping mandates where you find the executive state departments do not want to let go of functions that purely belong to a constitutional commission and independent office. And therein lies the problem, that the funding that should go to a constitutional commission to carry out its mandate continuously and effectively is first of all not there. And then there are perennial disagreements between particular state departments or other agencies on the role and mandate of constitutional commissions and independent offices. However, there have been a lot of successes. And we've seen, and unfortunately, sometimes other agencies take credit. If you look at some of the work that's done, for example, by the National Land Commission, you'll find that when it comes to discussions in public, it is the Ministry of Lands that will be at the forefront. My good friend Alice is looking at me. If you look at, for example, when we are dealing with the teachers in the country, you will not hear the Teacher Service Commission being mentioned. You'll hear the Ministry of Education. But the boardroom discussions and the decisions made to ensure we streamline education is under the Teacher Service Commission, including many others. You look at the Controller of Budget, and I think you asked why now Controller of Budget and Auditor General. It was part of ensuring there was independence. We had a Controller of Budget department within the Office of the Auditor General because I am from those days. And it used to do purely the work that the controller currently does, but not as in-depth as now required of her by the Constitution. And then we'd go back later and audit, and there would be question, why are we auditing and raising an audit query, and we approved the funds in the first place? This separation means that the controller is able to sort things upstream before the auditor comes downstream to ensure now that the funds that she released or she authorized are utilized properly. So there are many examples of successes by constitutional commissions. Maybe what we now need to do is ensure the voice of the constitutional commissions in terms of the achievements is actually at the forefront and not drowned by other agencies.
Thank you. Your Excellency Governor, there is no doubt that majority of Kenyans view devolution as the most successful new addition that the Katiba 2010 delivered. Many have, in fact, many call it the heart of the Constitution. What do you believe devolution has delivered for the people to get that kind of kudos from our people?
Okay, thank you so much, Moderator. I must say I congratulate the drafters of this Constitution, and that is why I'm sitting here. It's because of it's the fruits of the Constitution. You can't imagine a girl from a marginalized community sitting as a governor and sitting before a committee of experts. That's a milestone, and that's why I'm saying the Constitution has immense gains compared to the challenges. Devolution is one of the gains of the Constitution. And it has brought governance, and it has promoted equity, inclusion, and also local development. If you look at the county governments, you can see in some areas, after 50 years of independence, they are now taking tap water for the first time since independence. We can see in health, the first years in Mandera was done during devolution. That's progress. Looking at Coast Region, the whole of Coast Region, we only had one facility serving as an ICU center. That is Coast General Hospital. But because of devolution, I have an ICU center in Kwale. We have renal units. I have an oncology center. So devolution has brought a lot of change. It has given people opportunity to participate, to propose what they want. We've given our people the opportunity to decide on what they want the government to do. And that's why we've seen a lot of changes in counties in terms of health, ECDs, like in my county, from 0 ECD to 540 ECD centers. From 0 ECD teachers to around 900 ECD teachers on permanent and pension basis. And this is happening all over the country. In terms of economy, the local economy has grown. Looking at my county, we have over 200 women and youth group companies who are doing business with the county government. It never used to happen. It's happening now. So devolution is a real thing which the Constitution brought to the people of Kenya.
Asante sana. Now, with good things comes challenges. There are those who view governors and officials of the counties, or let me put it this way, how would you suggest we address the rampant question of misuse of funds at the county level?
Okay, thank you. I must say, I don't know what's happened. It's like everybody's looking at the county government, and the money is all over the country. But you look at everybody condemning and criticizing county government when it comes to corruption. I want to call upon Kenyans to go and see what is happening in counties. True, the Auditor General does audits of all our books. So when you talk of corruption, unless the Auditor General does not do her work. But because they do audits, where does the corruption come in? So as counties, it's unfortunate that each and every time they talk of governance, they talk about corruption. There's so much, there are a lot of challenges which we are facing as county government, but all in all, counties are doing a lot of work.
Thank you very much. And I agree with you, it's because of the transparency. Everybody knows every shilling that comes to the counties. Just like CDF. CDF, for those who have been in employment, will tell you is one of the most useful use of the shilling. The Kenyan shilling, one of the most useful uses is CDF. But because of its challenges in terms of the constitution, and because it's so transparent, it attracts a lot of negatives. But so are counties, and I agree. I think that's a good thing. I think it's good to accept that the challenges are there and see how we can address. Let me say that our Katiba came with a lot. Constitutions are generally about limiting power. They're about limiting the power of the government. And our Katiba really put our people at the center of our governance and came up with a number of devices to bring accountability. Quite a number of them have not met their hopes because of, the Honorable Speaker will forgive me, he was, the Honorable Tangula, he was also a member of our committee, because of mostly the Parliament's, for example, vetting of senior government officers. Many would have hoped that there is far much more stringent vetting. For example, the recall of MPs, essentially in my opinion, between the legislature and the judiciary, it's not possible right now easily to recall MPs. And quite a number of the devices the Constitution has proposed have not really seen the light of day as designed. And I think Parliament has those challenges. I believe the counties have the challenges we mentioned. I believe the judiciary has had a lot of criticism in terms of its overstep in terms of overstepping in political questions like impeachment, in terms of hampering the executive's freedom to work, even when in the reasonable circumstances you could balance the right of one person versus the right of the majority of the people while still giving that party their rights. I think overall our constitution has delivered beyond measure. Anybody who lives in this region knows the freedoms Kenyans enjoy are absolutely phenomenal. Let me ask you, Professor, as a final question. The largest chapter in our constitution is the Bill of Rights. You have just been appointed to a new entity that will right many wrongs that have happened recently.
Yes.
How do you see the challenge that this day and age we have major human rights challenges as a country under our new Katiba?
Yeah, thank you very much. First of all, I just want to say that, the performance of democracy and the project of the rule of law are experiments. It is not a destination that when you get there, you are going to say, voila, I've arrived. It's a journey. And if you look at the oldest democracies in the world, and I don't want to mention names, but maybe I can say this because I live there. If you look at the United States, for example, their democracy is several hundred years old. And we are seeing certain spasms, epileptic spasms in the United States, which tells you that they have had many, many decades of practicing this thing called the project of democracy. And yet, they are still yet to master the mores, the traditions, and the norms of democracy. This democracy here in Kenya is a very young democracy. And I would say that prior to the 2010 Constitution, we had an authoritarian state. Our democracy is only 15 years old. If you really look at the theory of democracy, the way you're supposed to look at it, 15 years of age. So it's a very, very short period. We've made many, many mistakes. I like to say that in writing the 2010 Constitution, we also overcorrected on some things. You asked a question about, for example, the constitutional commissions. There are too many, okay? But let me just say this. Human rights violations are an anathema to the Constitution. But we know that the performance of the rights of assembly, the rights of speech, and so on, is a difficult journey. I was having a conversation with the Attorney General the other day, and we were talking about how in this country we need a protest law. A protest law that defines what happens when citizens rightfully exercise their right to assembly, so that some of the things that have happened do not happen. I want to say to the President that, Mr. President, you've been very bold. What you've done in appointing my panel of experts is unprecedented, it's historic, and it's really not happened on this continent. If you go back and you look at the South African Truth Commission, okay, with all due respect to my friend, the late Archbishop Desmond Tutu, not much happened there. People would go before the commission, they would tell their stories, there would be a few tears, and they would be given a Kleenex napkin to go and wipe their tears, and they'll be sent away. What we are doing here, with the action by the President, we are doing the first limb of giving justice to the victims.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Could we clap for everybody?
Let me just finish, because I think it's important for me to say this, because there have been some questions. That is the first limb of justice. Compensation is an aspect of justice. We are not saying that we will not go further and make recommendations. For example, how do you reform our security and police and law enforcement to make sure that they understand what their role is. We will get there as a country, but this is an important action. It answers the questions in the Bill of Rights, and it answers those questions in a very good way, and we look forward to a very fruitful process in this panel that the President has appointed. Thank you so much.
Prof, we have a lot of hope in that process, and we have a lot of confidence in you and your team. I know you have gotten a bit of criticism on those issues, but hang in there, and we thank the President for setting up that team. In actual fact, it really will go, in my opinion, a long way in healing the country as we move forward. Many don't know that the President was and the Honorable Karua were the most active members of the Parliamentary Committee. If you look at the Hansard, the number of people who proposed or seconded, there is no doubt who will come top and second in that list. The President took a lot of energy when we were doing the Katiba, and we thank him for this function. Let me say that...
Can I say something? I don't think that the President is getting enough credit for setting up this panel. And I want to hear a round of applause for the President.
Thank you very much. Let me bring it to a close, because the President has speak and many other items on the agenda. Let me thank the President for setting up this day. Let me thank the organizers for putting it together. Let me thank my panelists for a wonderful presentation. Could you give them a round of applause, please? Asanteni sana. Thank you very much.
Another hearty round of applause for the panelists. Thank you very much for that. And we'll just have a slight transition, Your Excellency, as I will now invite, after the song that we're going to sing, Honorable Dorcas Odor, who's going to facilitate the next session. But for now, I'd like us to maybe even just stand up and stretch a little bit as we sing a song that is going to be led by the State House Choir. It's a song that is familiar to many of us and will bring nostalgia in terms of remembering where Kenya has come from. The name of the song is Heko Jamhuri.
Sasa tunao uhuru kweli wa Kenya, wajetawala wananchi wafurahia. Kenya iko huru, Kenya iko huru, Kenya iko huru, madaraka ni yetu sasa. Kenya iko huru. Serikali yetu imbioni tunaendelea mbele. Serikali yetu imbioni tunaendelea mbele. Tunafuata mwendo wetu Kenya warambe. Moto moto Kenya, moto moto Kenya, moto moto Kenya.
Tuwapigie makofi tafadhali. Led by Mwalimu Wesonga, who is synonymous with patriotic songs. Let's take our seats kindly. Your Excellency, with your permission, allow me to now call on Honorable Dr. Sodur, the Attorney General, who is a facilitator for the next session. Welcome. Tupigie makofi akija tafadhali. Karibu.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Ruto, CGH, President of the Republic of Kenya. Your Excellency, Professor Kithure Kindiki, EGH, Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. The Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, EGH, Prime Cabinet Secretary. The Right Honorable Raila Odinga, former Prime Minister. Honorable Lady Justice Martha Koome, EGH, Chief Justice and the President of the Supreme Court of Kenya. The Right Honorable Dr. Moses Wetangula, Speaker of the National Assembly, and the Right Honorable Amason Jaffa Kingi, EGH, Speaker of the Senate. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Although I am the facilitator, but I was also called upon to make some remarks as the Attorney General. I rely on all the courtesies as have been observed, and I will go ahead and make some few remarks. The Constitution of Kenya puts Kenya on a firm path of constitutionalism and the establishment of a constitutional democracy. To realize this new imperative requires a fundamental mind shift, both in the operations of the state institutions as well as in our social interactions as citizens. The full promise of the Constitution will only be realized if each of the three organs of state, as well as all the independent commissions and offices, embrace the constitutional spirit of public service, public accountability, respect for human rights, and independence. They must remain robustly independent, but constructively interdependent. It is essential that they execute their mandates effectively, but at the same time, eschew tendencies of isolationism. The Constitution rests and is supported by four broad pillars: robust framework for a people-centric public engagement, as has been articulated by the panel before, independent and functional judiciary, executive and legislature, political goodwill. The Constitution presupposes that its transformative superstructure will be implemented in the context of a marching culture of compliance. So when we speak about political goodwill, it is the will of everybody who is holding leadership position. Every time we speak about political goodwill, we look at the president at the top. But all of us who are leaders are called upon to support the implementation of the Constitution. The fourth one is public vigilance. When people go to court and fault the government, it raises eyebrows. However, we think that is a very good thing because that is the only time that the Attorney General and the petitioner are together. The principles are the same. Then why do we sometimes object to those applications or petitions? It is because we believe in the same principle, but the facts that support the principle could be different. So all of us support independence and accountability. The institutions represented that will speak this afternoon must carry the burden of delivering services to the people of this great republic, even as they bathe in the high-minded ideas of independence, separation of powers, checks and balances that are so well elucidated in our progressive constitution. These are not concepts introduced to invite division or supremacy battles between manning organs and institutions of the state. Rather, they are grand ideas necessary for the proper functioning of a modern democratic state such as ours. The success of Kenya will ultimately be measured by the success and health of our constitution and our demonstrable respect for the totality of what it stands for, what it promises, and what it delivers. In my view, it is the realization of the Bill of Rights in its full gamut, social, economic, political, and cultural elements that provides the ultimate touchstone. As the chief legal advisor to government, the Constitution provides the bedrock against which we discharge our mandate. It is our North Star. When we provide advice to all organs of government, our focus is on promoting fidelity to the Constitution and practice of constitutionalism. The arms of government need to recognize that they are cogs in the same wheel. The successful implementation of the Constitution requires a cooperative and collaborative approach to governance, one that seeks to respect the architecture of the Constitution and the sovereignty of the people. The Attorney General's office will continue to be the defender of the rule of law, a faithful dispenser of legal advice and protection of the public interest in all its work, whether it is court representation, review of legal documents, legal aid, legislative proposal development, or legal advice. As we mark the 15th anniversary of the 2010 Constitution, we celebrate the sacrifices made by Kenyans to get the documents. We recognize the responsibilities bestowed upon the Attorney General in ensuring deepening of constitutional democracy, and we commit to always be guided by the Constitution in supporting the people of Kenya, the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature in our continued quest to implement the social contract faithfully. For all those in the panel today that will speak after me, let us reflect on how best we can enhance collaborative engagements and increased adherence to the constitutional principles and requirements in a manner that promotes harmony and sustainable development. As the Attorney General, I'm honored to steward this reflection segment on Katiba Day Constitution at 15. Today marks not only a celebration, but a moment of honest stock-taking. Our Constitution has anchored democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, and has redefined the relationship between citizen and state. It calls us to integrity in governance, inclusion of all voices, fidelity to public service, and accountability in the exercise of power. At 15, the Constitution challenges us to deepen its promise, to guard against complacency, and to remember that each institution is only as strong as the trust it inspires. This is why we pause today to hear directly from the custodians of our constitutional order how far we have come, what lessons we must heed, and where we must go. In my conclusion, while reflecting on the theme of this day, which is Katiba at 15 years, our covenant, our promise, our future, I would then pose the following questions to Kenyans to have a deeper, sincere, and honest reflection. I'm a human being, I could be wrong. And no human being is beyond repair. The first question, is devolution working as was envisaged by the framers of our Constitution? The second question, why is there more wastage of public resources at the county level as observed by the Auditor General in the various reports, yet there are more accountability mechanisms, checks and balances institutions established at both national and county level? The third question, why would we allow the electoral cycle after every 5 years to be the determinant of the calls for constitutional reforms? The fourth question, is it then time for us to audit, review and evaluate the Constitution to see whether it is working or not working as intended by the framers of our Constitution? Somebody might ask, what is the Attorney General doing to realize the aspirations of the people and the provisions of the Constitution? We have 4 major interventions as the Office of the Attorney General, and in our pursuit of the full realization of constitutional gains, the Office of the Attorney General has initiated a series of interventions designed to bring the Constitution closer to the daily lives of the people. When I was being sworn in, His Excellency the President challenged me about access to justice, decentralization. Access to justice is in the Constitution, but it is not self-implementing. It has to be invoked. How do the people invoke it if there are no equality of arms? So the Office of the Attorney General is operationalizing legal aid and public defender, which is already housed at the Department of Justice. And on the 1st of November, Your Excellency, the Office of the Attorney General will operationalize legal aid in all the 47 counties, with the 2 state attorneys giving legal aid to indigent at the county level. We have already employed 90 state counsel. They have gone through Kenya School of Government. Graciously, the Chief Justice is interning them for 2 months. We will pilot children in conflict with the law, that is criminal because of their liberty, probate and administration, and land cases. If we do well, we will justify, enhance budgetary allocation so that we can broaden the subject matter and enhance the capacity of the OAG. Secondly, when I took office, we were in 13 counties. I'm happy to report, as required under the Constitution, that each government organ must be in every county level. We are now at 33 counties, and by the end of this year, we hope to be in all the 47 counties. To enhance constitutionalism, to sensitize the public, and as part of legal aid education and information, the Office of the Attorney General in a month's time will unveil Human Rights and Rule of Law Training Chamber on 8th floor, where we hope to sensitize and educate all of us on our human rights, on our rule of law responsibilities and rights under the Constitution. An informed citizen of the law will be a better citizen and a law-abiding citizen. The 4th intervention is digitization for purposes of transparency and accountability. The Office of the Attorney General is fully digitizing all the public-facing departments. His Excellency the President challenged all cabinet secretaries, and we were asked, how do you carry the people with you? I believe that by these 4 initiatives, we will justify how we are carrying Kenyans with us as the custodians of your rights, rule of law, and human rights. With those few remarks, allow me to now shift as the facilitator. And as we reflect on this covenant, I'm reminded of the words of the late Chief Justice of South Africa, Ismail Mohammed, who observed that the Constitution is not a mere set of technical prescriptions. It is a mirror reflecting the national soul, the identification of our people's aspirations, their spirit, their soul. Indeed, our own Constitution was born out of deep struggles and sacrifices, an embodiment of the soul of Kenya. It is fitting that we begin with the collective guardians of oversight and independence, and now invite Mr. Gashom Otachi, EBS, Chair of the Forum of the Constitutional Commissions and Independent Offices, and Chairperson of the National Land Commission, to deliver his remarks.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, allow me to ride on the protocols established. Your Excellency, let me start by applauding you for this engagement, a very important engagement. I think will remain etched in our minds as we conclude this and think ahead. Let me also bring my greetings to you, Your Excellency, the leaders present, and all the Kenyans from the caucus. Your Excellency, the CCIOs brings together 15 constitutional commissions and 5 independent offices. Generally under the Chapter 15 commissions, but even those that are analogous. Your Excellency, fellow Kenyans, 3 years ago, the caucus celebrated an anniversary of 10 years. Why 10 years? Because after the Constitution was promulgated, it took a period of about 1 to 2 years to pass various statutes, appoint commissioners and set up the commissions and independent offices. So when we celebrated the 10th anniversary, it was basically a stock-taking anniversary. And last year, thanks to the support and facilitation by Your Excellency, again, we held a retreat in Naivasha of all the chairs and the holders of independent offices, as well as the commissioners, where again we reflected on the journey. I will pick out some highs and lows, or hits and misses. Just examples, because there are many. On the lows, what cuts across us is budgetary support that is insufficient. And that has been the case over the years. Resources. And that is a cry across the CCIOs. I say that generally because each of the independent commissions has its unique challenges. But that is a common factor. But I'm happy to report that in the recent past, we have seen from Your Excellency support in terms of growing budgets. I can personally speak of that about my commission and others that I have spoken to. Broad issue was one of mandate. There's a continuing TSC and Minister of Education, myself and Waziri Alice. These ones, as we fight diplomatically. But we have those issues. And I'm saying that in a general sense because they are not necessarily individual battles. It's a question of trying to understand, according to the law, where your mandate starts and ends. And at times it has to do with the legislation. At times it's a question of not being able to understand where really, if the law is interpreted properly, where you fit. Occasionally, it's deliberate, but that again cuts across. So I was just speaking on two aspects of what you consider the laws. Focusing on the highs, the hits. I would want to go back to the sermon that we had at the beginning and about the summit and how it is you can be climbing up, you have reached some summit, but sometimes you don't actually realize that you have reached some summit and you have made progress. I'll just pick two examples, speaking to all Kenyans. The IBC, under the new constitution, has conducted 3 elections. Very, very contentious, particularly at the top, but elections from the very top to all the way to MCAs. Now, I know we listened to some young people, 20 years or so, who were born around 2010, the young children, and there are many others, even in this gathering, who may not know that there's a time elections were presided over by an individual known as supervisor of elections. And that supervisor of elections was assisted by returning officers who were district commissioners. Now, I'm certain if we are to do a quick poll in this room, very few Kenyans would want to go back to that scenario. What am I saying? What we need to look at is, in terms of the positives, is to ask ourselves, we have these institutions. how can we support them and make them stronger rather than destroy them and have the alternative of where we came from. Another example is judiciary. I think Lady Justice Jokin Dung spoke to this. We have a very robust process of getting a Chief Justice, of getting Supreme Court judges and judges all the way down to magistrates through the Judicial Service Commission. And they apply, they are vetted, they are interviewed live on TV, a very comparatively transparent process. So, back to the example that the judge provided. In the good old days, probably tomorrow morning at lunch hour, you open your TV or radio, it's an announcement. His Excellency has appointed Mr. Otachi as the new Chief Justice or as the Supreme Court judge. And that was the beginning and end. Now, what we have been used to now, would we want to go back? Would we want to roll back those gains? So, I'm just picking on examples of what we, as we are taking stock, we are trying to appreciate. The point I'm making is every now and then you see attacks on constitutional commissions and independent offices. But even as you look at those attacks, we should ask ourselves whether we want to look at a glass that is half empty or half full. On our part, and on my part, I want to look at a glass that is more than half full. I would say the glass generally across CCIOs is about 75% full. So that remainder, which are the laws, how can we work around the supporting? To conclude, I just wanted, because I was told to make highlights. To conclude, we are having a very robust discussion that is across generation. We have had Gen Zs come strong, very strongly, raising their voices. I would urge those who are involved in appointment of commissioners, holders of independent offices, consider the Gen Zs. Let us have a mix. Mnakaa kwa commission, kuna wazee pale, kuna Gen Z pale, then you are able to talk to each other. Currently, I think the youngest commission I know of is actually a vice chair of IBC, Fahima Arafat, a young lady from a sort of marginalized community. I want to imagine you should be able to have those young people. I don't know whether 32 is Gen Z. Is that millennium? Millennial. Your Excellency, I know you started your career as a Gen Z. You got into politics in the 20s. So, can we encourage the Gen Zs? Can we bring them on board in this space so that they are not out there complaining? Let them come in. Even, Your Excellency, even as you recycle us, see, when I'm about to finish this one, I'll come to you and be in Pati Ingine. But even as you recycle us, can you also look at the younger generation? Can we as Kenyans, as we go about our business, how can we get the younger Kenyans being part and parcel of that summit of the Constitution? I hope I have been brief enough, because I know the other speakers. Asanteni sana.
That is a very nice call, but my experience at the Office of the Attorney General, we are trying to embrace Gen Zs, Your Excellency. We have to change all the rules of public service, almost 90%, for them to fit into our public service. One of them is flexi working hours. So that is food for thought. At the heart of the 2010 Constitution is devolution. We would be remiss if we did not allow the chair of the Council of Governors, Ahmed Abdullahi, to address this convocation. Very brief remarks, kindly.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya, and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces, Your Excellency, the Deputy President, Professor Kithure Kindiki, Your Excellency, the former Prime Minister and my party leader, Raila Odinga, Your Excellency, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Speakers of the two Houses, Excellency Governors, the Honorable Lady Justice Mother Kome, Chief Justice, all protocols observed. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, what a defining moment this is, celebrating 15 years after ushering in a new constitutional dispensation. On 27th of October 2010, at a time like now, a big crowd gathered at Uhuru Park, filled with hope that a new dawn had come. They cheered and danced, broke into jubilation as the then president, the late Honorable Mwai Kibaki, appended his signature to a new constitution in a historic gesture. He lifted it up and paraded it to a joyful crowd. And so the journey began, a journey of hope, a journey of reforms, policy, legal, institutional, and administrative, a governance shift from a centralized to a devolved system, from one house to a bicameral parliament, a progressive chapter, the Bills of Rights, entrenching political, civil, cultural, and socio-economic rights, a constitution that decrees us all on transparency, accountability, participation of the people, decision-making, inclusiveness, equality, and national unity. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, one of the most radical shifts in governance the world has ever seen was brought in by that new constitution 2010, the 27th of August that year. Devolution, which established two levels of government. That's why at the Council of Governors, we have a motto or a tagline that states 48 governments and one nation. Article 6.2 sums it all up for us, that governments are at the national and county levels, and they are distinct and interdependent and shall conduct their mutual relations on the basis of consultation and cooperation. Article 174 of the Constitution captures the objects, the purpose of devolution very succinctly. Devolution is not only concerned with economic development, it was meant to foster also national unity, democratic and political inclusion, and facilitate the decentralization of power, responsibilities, and resources, all aimed at bringing decision-making and services closer to the people. Devolution, as I've said in many forums, is indeed the truest definition of bottom-up social, economic, and political transformation. And in a summarized way, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Kenya has recorded notable improvements in all sectors that are devolved, including health, pre-primary education, agriculture, livestock development, water, roads, environment, climate action, trade, and cooperatives. For instance, just a case in point, there wasn't a single pre-primary school teacher on the payroll of national government in 2013. And currently, the payroll of county governments, there are over 50,000 pre-primary teachers. And the same can be said of all sectors that are devolved. We also celebrate the fulfillment of the not more than 2/3 gender rule in all our county assemblies, unlike in the national parliament, and in our county executive committees. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, devolution has done its bit and continues to do its bit in bridging the tale of two Kenyas. As we celebrate Katiba Day today, this commemoration comes at a time when the nation is openly discussing the very challenges that led to the Constitution. Therefore, these demands that have been made are not new. They are the very promises of our Constitution. In fact, the socio-economic and environmental challenges that we have, in our view, at the Council, would have been worse without devolution. They would have been worse without Constitution 2010. We therefore must jealously guard this Constitution, including devolution and devolved governments. As county governments, we continue to aspire and to promise the nation that we will do our best to attain the highest standards of effectiveness. Your Excellency, in a summarized way, from the perspective of the county governments, through the COGA,